We're going to sow seeds directly today. Sowing seeds directly into the ground is by far the easiest way to grow food. You don't have to worry about transplant shock. You don't have to worry about caring for your seedlings indoors. And all you really have to do is keep them watered overhead until they germinate daily. From there, it's just a matter of giving all of your plants water about 1 inch a week. You can do this with irrigation, and you can also do this with a simple rain gauge to measure how much rainfall you're getting and how much you're watering by overhead. The two types of strategy for sowing seed directly is what I like to call sowing in clumps and sowing in rows. You sow in rows when you have vegetables that you can thin and eat the microgreens of, like carrots or lettuces. You sow in clumps when you have larger vegetables that you wouldn't necessarily thin in order to eat the microgreens. Examples of sowing in clumps would be tomatoes, pepper, broccoli, and in this case, watermelon. You always want to read the back of the seed packet, specifically the seed depth and the plant spacing. This is an 8-foot bed, and I need to space these every 3 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 plants equally spaced in this bed. And all I'm going to do is just dig a hole that is about 1 inch deep in the middle and then equal distance here on the sides. In general, you always want to plant twice the depth of the actual seed side itself. And for larger seeds like watermelon, cucumber, beans, I usually do 2 to 3 seeds, and then I thin to 1 plant later. And then for smaller seeds like peppers or tomatoes, I usually do 3 to 4, sometimes even 5 seeds. Whenever I am sowing more than one of the same plant, I like to put the seeds in the hole and then continue to sow all of the holes that I have pre-dug, so that way I remember where I have sown seeds already. Once that's complete, I can go back and cover them all up. The other type of direct sowing is sowing in rows, and this is great to do for lettuces, radishes, carrots, anything that you could eat the microgreens as they grow and mature and you thin them. So I have this row of carrots here, and there's a few spots where it's a little bit empty, and I'm going to take advantage of this empty space and sow what's called another succession of carrots. And the benefit of succession cropping is getting harvest at different times of the year. And this is also a perfect opportunity to show you how I sow in rows. I'm still paying attention to the seed depth, which for carrots is a 1/4 inch, but instead of just digging one hole, I'm going to dig a little trench with my finger here in all of the bare spots. I'm going to overseed. So that means that I'm going to not pay attention so much to the plant spacing because I'll thin them as they grow bigger. And I'm just going to put a bunch in this little trench here. And then very, very gently cover them up. You want to make sure that there's no big chunks of bark and kind of move those out the way if there is. Here is an overhead view of me creating just a little trench, moving out my big chunks of bark here. That's just about a 1/4 inch deep. And then I take my seeds, I pour them in my hand for easy access, and I sprinkle them in my trench without worrying about how thick it's going to be. And then I gently cover it up. And if there's any big chunks, I just move those out the way. The other sort of direct sowing I'm going to show you is surface sowing. And this is done for seeds that are so small, they don't need to be dug into the soil. They literally just need to be scattered on the surface and pressed lightly into the surface. Lettuce is commonly surface sown along with other plants like chamomile. The trick to surface sowing is to first make sure that you've got a nice smooth surface. So I'm moving all of the bark here in this bed and scooting it to the side. And I also want my soil to be very soft. So I'm kind of going through here and breaking it up with my hands and taking out all the big chunks and just making sure that I've got a super soft layer of soil here. And now I'm gonna take this little gem lettuce.
Can I plant too?
And I'm gonna sprinkle it all along here. You wanna sprinkle this side, sweetie?
Can you see? Oh.
You can sprinkle it all around there.
Among the broccoli. The broccoli.
The broccoli.
Oh.
That's good. Now we need to water it in. When you surface sow, it's even more important to water, if not once, twice a day, to keep that top surface moist so the seeds can germinate. We are thinning carrots, and this is a really great way to utilize your seeds, which usually cost the least out of all of the materials in the garden, and maximize your yield. I always oversow carrot seeds, and that way when I need to thin them, I can get a bunch of baby carrots. Here's a perfect example of a bunch of carrots sown really close together. Now each one of these can get up to a dime size at least thickness. So you want to space your carrots eventually about 1/2 inch. And what we do is we dig at the bottom to determine the size or the diameter of our carrots. And we've decided that this one right here would be the perfect one to pull because it's the largest one and it's in the middle. So let's give it a try, Cece. Perfect. A perfect baby carrot.
And watch me.
And now we've got a little bit more space for these to grow, and we'll do that for all of our carrots down the row.